What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the security engineer track from TryHackMe. And in today's video, we're going to cover identity and access management room. So let's take a look at this room, and you have this illustration here. This illustration actually summarizes all the concepts that we're gonna talk about in this room, that are the identity and access management concepts. As you can see, it starts off with what someone looks like a bodyguard. It's asking you, who are you? And you, as the person who's trying to get access to some area, you're answering with your name. I am Lucas. And here the security guard is telling you how can you prove it? And then you're pulling out your ID card that states your name. And then after the bodyguard has authenticated you, or identified and authenticated you through your name and through your ID card, he has actually authorized you to get access to wherever you're trying to get access. So it could be your gym subscription, it could be your company, or it could be a new hiree who on your first day. So he's telling you, you are authorized to enter. Don't break anything. We have cameras everywhere. So as you can see, first is the identification phase. The security guard is trying to identify who you are. It's the same process when you try to log in to your account in any website. When you try to log in to TryHackMe, it asks you for your username. So at this stage, we are asking for the identification. And then, as you can see here, the security guard wanted a proof. So they ask you, prove that you are who you claim to be. So you pull your ID card. So here you are kind of performing or proving your identity through the ID card. But if you're logging to a website, you prove your identity through the password. So, and then the security guard is telling you, you are authorized to enter. Here the security guard is telling you what you can do and what you cannot do. In a website example, you can do certain aspects in your profile. You can edit your profile, you can upload a new photo, you can browse the site, but definitely you're not going to be able to access the administration panel of that website. So you're authorized to do certain aspects. This is called the authorization phase. And then we have the last phase, which is the accountability. So here the security guard is telling you, don't break anything. We have cameras everywhere. So the cameras are playing the role of the entity which can prove that you did something or you did not do something. In the case of cybersecurity, this is the phase of accountability, which is achieved by logging. So logging, the website TryHackMe, for example, has logs for your activities in the platform. These logs serve the accountability. They can prove that you did or did not do a certain aspects. So this illustration here has all the story of this video, identity and access management. All right, let's talk now about identity and access management. So the first thing I would like to tell you guys, I am preparing notes for COMPTIA Security Plus certificate. This is in the pipeline. Before we have finished the Offensive Security Certified Professional notes, you can find them if you are subscribed to channel membership. Now let's talk about the identity and access management. Now everything that actually organizes identities is part of what's called access control. Now access control is there to maintain confidentiality of the information. We don't want sensitive information to get disclosed or fall in the wrong hands. So we want to maintain confidentiality through access control. And in access control, we try to manage identities. So identification, authentication, authorization, and accountability. So as you saw previously in the figure, guys, this is the identification phase here. We ask who you are, okay? So in here, identification can be achieved by asking for who you are through a username. It could be an email address, It could be a username, it could be an ID number, or it could be an ID card. It could be a name here. So it is that to identify who you are. And the next phase we have the authentication. In authentication, we try to prove that you are who you claim to be. In that case here, we ask for the identity card. But in other instances, we might be asking, or you might be asked to provide proof. There are three types of proofs that you can provide. We start with something you know. So something you know is something that you memorize. It could be password, it could be PIN, or it could be a passphrase. This is certainly something you are familiar with. When you log into a website or to your profile, you're asked about your password. This is something you know. Now, in other instances, you might be asked about something you have. It could be a security key here. Okay, it could be a phone. So a phone has a SIM card. The SIM card could receive an SMS that verifies who you are. So yeah, something you have and something you know. And lastly, something you are. Here we prove your identity through biometric readers, such as fingerprint readers, facial recognition. They are widely used now in cell phones. So here the authentication phase can be achieved through three different aspects: either something you know, a password, something you have, a physical key or physical object, or something you are through biometric recognition. Now recently, all the technology started to implement multi-factor authentication. It combines two of these. It either combines something you know with something you have, or it could combine something you know with something you are. So an example of multi-factor authentication is a password with a phone. So in here you enter the password and then an SMS is sent to the phone number. If you are the owner of the phone number, you would be able to receive the SMS and enter it to be able to log into your profile. So access control here, guys. First we identify you, we authenticate you, and then after you are authenticated, there are policies there to set what you are authorized and what you are not authorized to do. This is authorization. This sets your permissions and privileges level. Okay, so here in the example here, as you can see, you are authorized to enter only to the facilities here. You might not be authorized to enter other facilities. This is called the authorization. Now in the digital world, it could be doing, like for example here, I can access these pages, right, in the platform, but certainly the website TryHackMe has other pages that I cannot access because I am not authorized to do that. There are policies set to prevent me from doing that. So authorization is enforced through security policies and permissions. And after we set the permissions, we do accountability. The accountability is achieved by logging. So logging is important to account or to hold someone accountable for their actions. So in the case of the illustration here, the security cameras achieve this objective by monitoring what you do while you are in the facility. In the digital world, we use logging. So the logging, Windows logging, Windows event logging, for example, Apache logs, all sorts of logging, they contain the user actions, the date and time, what kind of actions the user performed. All of that is to achieve accountability. Now these four phases are part of the identity and access management. Okay. Now let's see what are the questions required to answer. Now in summary, this is all what you need to know about this room. Questions now. Let's see. You are granted access to read and send an email. What's the name of this process? This is authorization here. You can do certain aspects and you cannot do other aspects. Which process would require you to enter your username? Of course, it is the identification. We want to see who you are. Although you have write access, you should only make changes if necessary for the task. Which process is required to enforce this policy? It is the accountability. Alright, questions regarding identification. Which of the following cannot be used for identification? Email address can be used for identification. Mobile number can be used for identification because they are unique things that can or that are attributable to you as a person. I mean, your email address, no one can have your email address, right? It's unique for you. No one can register the same mobile number. Year of birth, but year of birth here, it is not something unique. Many people could have the same year of birth as you, and therefore year of birth is not considered something that can be used for identification. I mean, yeah, sure, because you cannot expect an officer to ask you or to identify you by asking you, what's your year of birth, man? What's your year of birth? I want to know who you are. It's ridiculous. Which of the following cannot be used for identification? Okay, landline number can be used. It's unique. It's only tied to you. It's registered under your name. Street number cannot be used for identification because the street number is actually for the street. It identifies the street. It doesn't identify you. So the answer here is 2. Authentication. Okay. When you want to check your email, you enter your username and password. What kind of authentication is your email provider using? It is something you know here. We explain these in the document. Something you know, it is something you memorize in your mind. Password, passphrase, PIN. Your bank lets you finish most of your banking operations using its app. You can log in into your banking app by providing a username and password and then entering the code received via SMS. What kind of authentication is the banking app used? It's a multi-factor authentication. It's combining your identity, something you know, and something you have. Both. Your new landline phone system at home allows callers to leave you a message when the call is not picked up. Voicemail. Okay. You can call your home number and enter a secret number to listen to the recorded messages. What kind of authentication is being used here? So basically, your voicemail system has an authentication so that it asks you for something you know to enter the messages. So it's 1. You have just started working as an advanced research center or at an advanced research center. You learn that you need to swipe your card and enter a 4-digit PIN whenever you want to use the elevator. This is common in modern facilities. Under which group does this authentication fall? It's again multi-factor. Why? Because it's combining more than one sort of authentication. The first sort or the first type, it is something you have. Swipe your card, it's something you have, physical. And something you know, you memorize in your mind, it's something you know. So if you combine both, you end up with multi-factor authentication. Okay. Authorization. The new policy states that the secretary should be able to send an email on the manager's behalf. What is this policy dictating? It is authorization. You are authorized, you are given permission to send an email on behalf of your manager. It could mean that you will be able to get access to their email, of course, after their consent, and send emails on their behalf. This is authorization. Authorization is seen through, guys, permissions, right? Permissions to read, modify, change, delete files, directories. This is an example. You shared a document with your colleague and gave them permissions, gave them view permissions, so they could read without making changes. Okay, what would ensure that your file won't be modified? Now here you authorized your colleague to access your file and only read it. Okay, now this is access control. Why? Because it is more than only authorization. You have already authorized your colleague, okay, to get access to the document, but you applied additional permissions, okay, which is only only letting the colleague read the file. This is access control. So the hotel management decided that the cleaning staff needed access to all the hotel rooms to do their work. What phase is this decision part of? It is of phase 1, authorization. Now, if we say that, yeah, all cleaning staff will get access to all hotel rooms, but let's say they will not be authorized to, let's say, let's say, for example, they will not be authorized to enter the bathrooms of the hotel rooms. This is more than authorization. This is also access control. Okay, now accountability and logging. Here, no answers required. Identity management. Now, let's talk about the difference between identity and access management and identity management. Now, first thing first, identity management, guys, or access management, they share one common thing, which is managing identities, meaning creating, provisioning, and deleting users. That's the core concept of both. But IAM, or identity and access management, expands on identity management by providing broader aspects such as specifying permissions, specifying roles, onboarding and offboarding, and revoking access. Attacks against authentication. It's not a complete task, by the way, so I'm not going to touch on this. I'm going to just cover the answer, replay attack, because there are many attacks against authentication that are not mentioned in this room, in this task, sorry. So it's enough to know that the answer here for this is replay attack. Replay attack is when someone is eavesdropping on the packets that you exchange between you and the websites. So if someone is able to capture these packets, they would take these packets and resend it to the exact same server or website you are trying to get access to. This is called replay attack. Alright, here lastly they talk about access control models. Now there are three kinds of access control models. We have the discretionary, role-based, and mandatory. I will expand on these in my document later, but for discretionary access control, it's where the data owner, okay, specifies to whom they will send the document and what level of access they have. It's very common between family and friends. When you share your file, when you share a document with your friend through WhatsApp or through Google Drive, this is discretionary. It's up to you, the file owner, what to do with the file and to whom you send it to. Role-based access control, it's based on job description or what you need to do to accomplish your job. So based on your job, based on your job, the permissions and the level of access assigned. And mandatory access control is the strictest level of access control. It's common in military organizations, where it is there to maintain confidentiality of highly classified data. Single sign-on, it's using one account and one password for all the services. Example is when you log into any site using your Google credentials or using your Facebook credentials. This is single sign-on. Does single sign-on simplify MFA use as it needs to be set up once? Yes, because again guys, back to Google example, when you log into any site using Google, if you set up multi-factor authentication on your account in Google, it can ask you for the code sent to the SMS. So yes, it simplifies. Is it true that single sign-on can be cumbersome? No. Does SSO allow users to access various services after signing in? Yes, because an example would be accessing your Gmail. So if we go to Gmail now, okay, with our username and password, we can access all of the services here: YouTube, Play, Meet, Gmail, News, Chat, Contacts. All of these are services hosted behind Gmail. With single sign-on, with your Gmail credentials, you will be able to access these services. Similarly, in Active Directory organizations or Active Directory setups, when you log into your account, you'll be able to access the file share. you'll be able to access other services and programs, right from one account. Does the user need to create and remember a single password? Yes, it's a single password for a single account. Now to the scenario. This is a timed quiz. Okay, so let's start. Yoshiro locked his computer and went to the look. We have timing here, so we're gonna make sure we hit the time correctly. Yoshiro locked his computer and went to the cafeteria to have lunch. But Yoshiro had been doing numerous blue team rooms recently, therefore when he came back he checked for invalid logins. So you have here logs that indicate invalid logins. So what is this called? This is called, as you can see, he knows that someone tried to log in. What makes such auditing possible? We need logging. This is logging, guys, and this is what achieves accountability. Hit logging. Thomas checks his computer logs regularly. He comes across the following: unlocked, login, querying. But he was on a vacation on that day, so it must be an intruder. What process makes such detection possible? It is logging. Juliana, or in Mexican, Juliana, called the IT department. The support personnel asked for her name, and she replied, this is asking for identity, it's identification. To withdraw money from the bank's ATM, Yoshiro must enter his credit card with PIN. Credit card with PIN, it is authentication. Still haven't enrolled his fingerprint. Yoshiro unlocked his phone by drawing a pattern. This is also authentication using something you have. After a lengthy meeting between different concerned departments, the newly decided policy is to grant management. This is authorization, controlling access. Quick, no time. After finishing Juliana's course, Juliana knows, okay, we have logs here. No, not logs. What do you call this restriction imposed by operating system? It is access control, authorization. Yeah, we hit the timing, so. Okay. So what do you call this restriction imposed by the operating system? This is access control. Always forgetting strong passwords. Thomas decided to use a passphrase that invokes imagination. 11 white. What does a passphrase help with? Of course, authentication. Juliana noticed that her smartphone was blinking as a new message had arrived. To unlock the phone, she used her fingerprint. The fingerprint is something you are, which is part of authentication. Yoshiro decided to beef up his skills in cybersecurity. He opened his browser to log in at TryHackMe. In the username or email field, he writes this. This is identification, right? And this is a flag. So that was it, guys, for this room. I'm gonna go on further with all of the rooms to finish this track. So stay tuned, and I'm gonna see you in the next video.